control over it. Maybe in some ways you can be more powerful than the king. During times when we have information coming at us faster than we can possibly realize, the key to integrating it all is making sure that data can stay in sync, whether it's our on-prem or our cloud sources, bring it all together. And with that, I will turn it over to Tony Scalese. Tony, take it away.
Thanks, Edward, and thanks for getting my name right. Appreciate it. I know there's often a little confusion on how to pronounce it there. All right, so thanks everybody for allowing us to talk with you a little bit today. I promise I'm not going to just give you a commercial on OneCloud, but I am going to spend a little bit of time educating you just in case you aren't familiar with what OneCloud is and who we are and all that good stuff. We'll talk a little bit about what integration actually means. I think different people may think of it differently, so it's always good to get level set there. And then once we get a little bit of that going, then why should we consider OneCloud given the other options that are out there? Then lastly, I'd like to wrap up with going through some recent real world use cases and deployments that we've had, specifically, those that have happened within the past couple of weeks. Particularly, one in general was to respond to the current pandemic and all of the analysis that's needed to understand exactly what's going on. Apologize if I look like I'm kind of confused on which screen here. I've got two screens at home, trying to make sure that I'm looking at the camera and seeing you and staying focused, but at the same time, it's a little difficult because I'm slightly off skew, so apologies. And then obviously, just like the rest of the sessions today that you've attended, there's time for Q&A. So let's have some fun. So what is OneCloud? Technically, we are an iPaaS solution. I stands for integration, not infrastructure. So we're integration platform as a service, but we're built with the business user in mind. So for those of you that know cloud data management or FDMEE, we seek to think about it in the same way there that those products existed. If you look at the bottom left there, you see how many times have you heard spaghetti code, or our integration is so complex, it's it looks like this. With OneCloud, we seek to really become that platform that lives in the middle, that takes away all of that spaghetti code and gets rid of the black box and makes it really easy to understand how you've integrated your data, how you've automated it, both between on-premises and in the cloud. Our key monikers here: we want to integrate, automate, and help you accelerate. So we want to help you integrate your various systems, not just general ledger systems, but perform any type of operational systems that you may have, not only just financial data, but operational data. So pulling data out of Salesforce as an example, we want to make sure that we're helping you do that. Obviously, wrapping automation around, we're all faced with this crazy time right now where we have to think about doing more. And we're probably not going to be able to add staff to the team in order to support those additional demands. Automation, I think everybody understands this, but it becomes really critical in these kind of moments. How do we make sure that we're doing things that are normally done manually? How can we eliminate some of that bottleneck and that inefficiency? And automation is obviously the key there. And then those two things really come together and help us accelerate our business processes that are supported by this data. So whether it's our close cycle, our financial planning cycle, whatever it might be, we want to make sure that we're accelerating that, because there's obviously a faster and larger demand for data in times like these. So if you follow us on Twitter, or you follow me on Twitter, you see the hashtag IAA. That's what that stands for: integrate, automate, and accelerate. A little bit about the technologies we support. There's over 60 of them. You can see obviously Oracle Big Red sitting there pretty significantly. All of the different cloud services we support that they offer, as well as their on-premises systems, including Oracle Relational Database, as well as Autonomous Data Warehouse, HFM, the e-business suite, and this list keeps growing. So not only do we support Oracle, but we support a lot of others. So if you're in a situation where you need to integrate data across an operational system, a general ledger system, we may have a connector for that. And if we don't, reach out. We're more than happy to build one together. So a little bit about me. Number one, I'm a storyteller. I like telling stories because, frankly, a good story makes a presentation a lot more enjoyable. And I think if anybody's watched Edward, they're well aware that he's also a pretty good storyteller. So I try to take on that learning from him. So I'm currently the Chief Customer Officer at OneCloud, and I joined in November 2019. And I recently went on a little bit of a West Coast roadshow, go visit some of our technology partners, both Oracle and Anaplan, as well as some of our customers that are out there in the Bay Area. And I sat down with one of our customers, and I believe he's actually on this conference. And first words out of his mouth are, "What exactly is a Chief Customer Officer?" And so I summarize it like this when I'm talking to people, because I think that that's a new title in the C-suite. I'm responsible for making sure that as an organization, we understand that we earn the right to grow by realizing and understanding that customers are our number one asset. Some people might say it's your people. The mantra of the Office of the Chief Customer Officer is that customers are your number one asset. So customer success above all else, because without it, we fail to exist as a business. So I want to make sure that our customers and our partners are successful, and I view those two as one and the same. Prior to that, I spent 13 years in the consulting industry. I think that's where anybody that knows me from. So I spent an inordinate amount of time understanding and developing solutions for FDM, FDME, cloud data management, all of those things. You can see somewhere along the lines there, I'm listed as an author. I've written a few books on FDME, but now I'm bringing that passion to OneCloud, really excited about it. And I have just this fascination and almost fanatical obsession with sharing knowledge. So that's a little bit about me. Obviously, you can see their husband and a dad, and I'm really proud of those things as well. All right, so what is integration? First of all, why don't we get started here with a little poll here. So let's go ahead and activate this. If you go to this link, those are underscores here and here. So bit.ly/TS_OC_poll. And so when we look here, what is the most important component of a financial systems solution? So I've got a free subscription to this. So the first 25 that weigh in, great. Thank you for participating. Number 26, sorry, you're out of luck. But I'd really be interested to see what people think is the most critical or important component of a financial system. So we've got one total result. Lively bunch here. This is going swimmingly. I should have told my story during this. Thank you to the two people that have voted. I'm sure one of them is Edward. So thanks, Edward. All right. A few more trickling in. This isn't surprising. I would expect to see a little bit of a split between these two. I'm surprised that nobody said process, right? Because that's one that people think about quite often. So in my opinion, and it's not necessarily the right opinion, but it's mine, I believe that data is paramount in all of this. And why do I say that? Well, reporting. Ever heard the term garbage in, garbage out? Well, if your data is wrong or bad or incomplete or any of those things, doesn't matter how elegant your reporting is, how good your reporting is, without good data, your reporting is meaningless. Same thing with your process. You could build the greatest process in the world. It can be efficient. It can hit all the right checkboxes, but if the data is inaccurate, guess what? And same thing with calculations and formulas. Again, garbage in, garbage out. So in my opinion, and hopefully I've made the case, it seems like some people changed their vote potentially, or more people just kind of weighed in. You can see that data is pretty darn important here. All right, so next one. When somebody says data integration or just integration in general, what do you think of? And this is free form text, so I'm trusting everybody. Again, this is a free account, so if you type something in here that's not so kind or nice, everybody's going to see it. It might be a good way to poke a little fun at me, but probably just want to make sure you're not doing anything too mean here. But what are the thoughts that the word or term data integration invokes for you? So connectors, data flow, ETL, Hi, Mike. Anybody else? And again, if you don't have the URL, it's up at the top of the screen here, polev.com/Tony Scalese 829. Okay, it's a good one, Leo. I like this pole EV thing, by the way. It's kind of neat. So one of the things that I was looking for here to see if anybody would say is the idea of, oh no, I hate doing this, or this is so painful, or what a black box, I just don't get it. Because those are things that I often heard whenever I was going into customers as a professional service provider. I like the IT one there. That's definitely one that we hear a lot. So thank you for participating. So maybe we'll pop back to this at the end. Single source of truth, good one. So I'll leave this one open. Feel free to continue entering things in there if you're interested. All right. So why data is king? And I already kind of alluded to this. It's a single most important component of a financial system. Again, if your data is not good, it doesn't matter what the rest of the system is. It doesn't matter how good your calculations are, how complex they are, how fast they run. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your reporting is pretty and just really paints this picture. If the picture is wrong, it doesn't matter. So that's really important. All right, great. So we understand that. We all agree on that, hopefully. If we don't, well then, maybe I'll convince you over the course of the presentation here. But a key portion of, all right, how do I get data right? How am I a better Liege? And for those of you that don't know that word, it's one that I discovered through watching a movie, A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. I enjoy movies and that, so I pick up little movie quotes, and I'm kind of a collection of worthless movie quotes. So I said that the other day, and somebody said, "What's a liege?" So a liege is somebody that serves the king. So we are serving the data king, and as part of that, we need to do what we think of as data discovery. And it's the process of gaining insight into the data and understanding what exactly is the data telling us, right? Some people might think of this as a data scientist, a financial analyst. There's different disciplines that go around this, but in general, it's trying to understand what the data is telling us. What is it teaching us about our business so that we can make decisions that help us grow? Data integration is a key portion of that data discovery, because again, without good data, we can't do data discovery. So we want to focus in on making sure that when we build an integration, that it's accurate and that the integrity of the data, again, supports what the overall output of that insight or data discovery is, which is making better business decisions. So, and again, we have the Q&A panel open. If anything I'm saying throughout the course of this sparks a question, by all means, throw it in the Q&A. I may get to it if I see it on the screen, or I might save it till the end, kind of depending on how I think the presentation is flowing. All right, so let's talk about the data integration process. This is kind of into the nuts and bolts of things here. So let's talk about the different steps that make up a data integration process. Well, I need to identify my data source or sources. I think of this as requirements, understanding the data structures and the models. How do those things relate to one another? All right, so now we've gotten into a little bit of design. And then I actually need to build it. I need to run it. I need to verify it. So I'm building and testing. And then at the end, I should be finding a way to automate these things. I don't want to do data integration manually. I can. There's no reason I can't. But ideally, you're automating this. So I think of this as kind of the sustain. And then I rinse and repeat this cycle. Well, for anybody that's been through projects or is an implementation consultant, those all sound a lot like different project phases, right? Requirements, design, build, test, sustain, or roll out, however you want to think about that last one there. And that's exactly what they are. Every time you do data integration, whether you realize it or not, it's a mini project. It might be part of an overall program, but it's still a project. It's something that we need to do, and we need to be regimented in how we do it. Because if we don't follow these steps, our typical project steps, then we tend to end up in a place where our integration is probably not great. It's probably not efficient. It may not be accurate. It may not be sustainable. which kind of leads me to our next set of things here, which is our data integration goals. Well, for me, these are the 4 things that I think about whenever I build an integration. Data quality. Well, this one goes back to data is king. And what is the most important part of a system? Data quality, right? It doesn't matter. All these other metrics that are on the screen right now don't matter if the data is wrong. So that's obvious. We all understand that. But I think one of the things that we miss in data integration with data quality is, okay, let's think about just kind of standard EPM related things here. I tie data out, and I might tie it out at a business unit, company code, entity, whatever you want to call it, and the account. But what about all my custom dimensions? Don't give the short shrift. Think about these as well as I'm going through my data quality. All right, great. My data quality is good. That's excellent. Now all of my reporting is supported, my calculations are supported. But what's the performance look like? Does it take me 6 hours to load the data? Can I get that down? Does it take an hour? Can I get that down to something that's more reasonable? Have I optimized that as much as possible? This is no different than building calculations in one of these applications, right? We want to make sure that everything is performing as well as possible. And that also leads us into sustainability. Hey, what does it take to keep this integration going, to respond to those changes in the business that always come? That's why Oracle EPM and BI exists, because we serve a market that is constantly changing and in flux. Now is a prime example of that, right? How many people have gotten new requirements for reporting that need you to make updates to your models, your applications, your calculations, and your data to support it, right? So how sustainable is that integration that we've built to keep up with that change? And then how scalable is it? As we need to add new things in, does that platform perform? Does that integration perform? Can I extend it to new business units easily? And scalability and sustainability are somewhat related to each other. All right, so great. We understand all those. We agree those are good things that we want to think about when we're building an integration. So why would I think about OneCloud for this? Well, if we think about the different things that are out there, right, there's a number of them, and I'm not going to list them all here, but I think everybody's familiar with them. But I think one of the value propositions of OneCloud is its ease of use. It's very much select and connect. So we're literally dragging and dropping things onto a palette or a studio, and then we're connecting those different things together. It allows us to build an integration very easily, and also then automate that process because we've spent little time actually building it. Now we can focus in on integration as well. It's very self-service. And again, it's kind of business user friendly. If you look at the GIF that's on the screen here, I'm sorry for all the purists out there, GIF. But if we look at that animated window there, you can see there's different things that are being pulled onto the palette there. We're building an integration based on the different commands or the different steps that you're going to need to perform. So I'm going to need to upload the file to PBCS. I'm going to need to run a business role within PBCS. I'm going to need to perform a data import. Those are all things that we understand as Oracle EPM and BI folks, right? So by giving you commands that you can simply drag to build an integration, we've streamlined that. The application, our platform, is what we call application aware. We have understanding of these apps. So list of technologies, that box there, the commands that are associated with a given technology. So in this case, this is something related to Oracle ePBCS. And then here we have the actual command and the parameters. So there's no coding that goes along here. Everything's a UI. It's built in. You simply enter or select the different things within this command's parameters in order to make that particular function work. And then lastly, some additional features around OneCloud that I think are important and somewhat different than what's out there in the marketplace. SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and EU US Privacy Shield certified. I think that those are very important things, particularly when we're talking about an as a service offering like OneCloud is. Right? Your data is safe, right? And there's been an independent third party that's come through and said, yes, we certify that. So that I think that that's really important as we think about data security and the risk of data leaking out when we don't want it to. Platform's interactive. And for those of us that have used cloud data management or EPM Automate or the S-Space command line utility, the CLI, all of those things, you kind of kick it off and then you wait for a response back to tell you whether something happened or not. You're not really getting a live view into what it's doing. OneCloud is actually, when you're executing, showing you exactly which step it is on, and then when it goes to the next step, you can see that step completed, and then the next one is processing. I think that's a pretty neat feature. Data masking. So again, you can have all the logging information, and we can hide all the financial data. We can hide any of the user IDs. We always hide the password, but those types of things, the ability to mask, I think is important. Built-in scheduling. Certain tools have it out there. Certain tools don't. It's definitely something that you want to have, particularly as we think about automation. Well, you build your automation and then you schedule your automation in a lot of cases. So you want to make sure that your platform has that. We have really easy to use lifecycle management, single sign-on, and then a nice security model. And again, I told you I wasn't going to give you a beating over the head of what OneCloud is. I just wanted to give you some of the features. So let's talk about some common questions, or some people might call them roadblocks that we sometimes hear. So if you're a consultant and you like this, or you're a customer, and you look at this and you go, oh, OneCloud sounds nice, but these are things that might pop into your head. We've already spent enough on software. True, I understand you've made a big investment in Oracle, but OneCloud is actually a real way to reduce the total cost of ownership, right? So you may have deployed Oracle EPM Cloud, and you might be thinking, well, maybe I need another administrator or a half a person to support all the integration that we've got going on. Sure, they might also help out with what we're doing in the applications themselves from a calculation perspective, reporting, whatever the case might be. But hey, if you can make your life easier for your existing staff and allow them to focus in on some of the other value add activities, it's a way to not have to add additional heads. So that's nice. And then why would I pay for this when we get data management for free? That's particularly in the Oracle EPM Cloud space. As you know, particularly if you've got OAC or a Space Cloud Service, Oracle Cloud Data Management doesn't talk to those. So it's not really a platform solution, where OneCloud is a platform that reaches across EPM and BI, as well as non-Oracle technologies, and it does it natively. So if these questions came into your mind, those are some high-level responses to it. If you like this as a business person, but you're afraid your IT is going to say, but we have Bedell Boomi or Informatica or MuleSoft or whatever the case might be, here's some answers to those. All right, and I'm not going to read them to you. All right, so let's talk about a little bit of real-world OneCloud here. So Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona. If you follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn, or you're subscribed to our blog, you will have seen a blog today about this. Just recently completed this. So they're in the process of deploying PCMCS, EPBCS, and EDMCS. EDM manages the dimensionality for EPBCS, and that's supposed to say PCMCS. I apologize for the typo there. I got pulled into this conference very late, i.e. yesterday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was up late working on this presentation, and clearly at 1 o'clock in the morning, that slipped by me. So I apologize, but EDM manages dimensionality for both EPBCS and PCMCS. Inbound data is loaded by Cloud Data Management, and the automation framework that was laid down was EPM Automate. No surprise there, right? Blue Cross Blue Shield is very late in the process. They're about to go live, but they have this need to move data from profitability, PCM, to Domo. They use Domo for analytics. So if you think about OBIE or what's now OAC with data visualization and BI components, that's what Domo is for those of us that aren't familiar. Well, as part of this, moving data from PCM to anywhere else can prove to be a bit of a challenge. I mean, getting data out of PCM and getting it into another application that's not S-Space based is really challenging. That ASO export that comes out, one, it can be really slow, And two, it comes out in a way that's not very user-friendly and not easily able to be consumed by downstream systems. So this is what spurred Blue Cross to find us. And we had written a blog about this recently and what our capabilities are here. And they saw it and they decided, oh, we want to do that. We want to see if that works. So they undertook a proof of concept with us and their consulting partner. And they went through and they proved out that this could work. And that helped them make the business case for making an investment in another technology, kind of a callback to a few slides ago. Well, as part of that, they're late in the process. You know, they're in this space where they're just about over the goal line. They're ready to go live, but hey, they've made this investment in OneCloud. It helped them with this one final requirement that they were struggling with. Great, we want to help them get more value out of the platform initially. So we deployed what we call a point and run strategy. And so this overall solution for them is somewhat of a hybrid. They did a build in OneCloud, a ground up build of the PCM to Domo integration. But the point and run, what we've done there is we've allowed them to leverage their existing EPM Automate framework and to deploy that within OneCloud so that OneCloud becomes an orchestration tool. It becomes a single point of entry to kick off these different processes and to manage them and to schedule them. And by doing that, what we've done is we've allowed them to go live on their time frame. We haven't introduced any risk to the project, and we've given them a runway to build their new OneCloud automation and integration. Right, so the goal is to replace EPM Automate and Cloud Data Management with the native OneCloud functionality in the long run. But when you're 2 weeks out from a go live, well, you don't want to rip out everything you've already done. So you start with this point and run. We literally can point to the batch scripts and execute them. And then we can wrap in a whole bunch of different things that we do in OneCloud to detect where there are errors. We can send email notifications based on the errors. Do we detect if there's an upgrade that's required to EPM Automate? For those of you that have been around EPM Automate, you've probably seen that message. Whenever Oracle releases an update to that utility, we detect that in the OneCloud chains. You know, we call our integrations chains. We detect that and send an email message. Right? So we've given them the ability to put it all into one place in the immediate term, and in the longer term, they can take a stepped approach to redeploying their integration and automation and really reduce their risk and give them more timeline. So kind of a nice use case there. Next one, real estate investment trust company. This is an interesting one. So they manage over 1,200 properties across the world, and they've got basically all different flavors of things. So they utilize Salesforce, HFM, which is obviously on-prem, Anaplan, which is in the cloud. Thank you for not booing. I think everybody's on mute, but you get what I'm saying there. On-premise SQL Server data warehouse, and then Power BI. And previously they were using an application called Scalese to manage some of this integration, and particularly between between Salesforce and SQL Server. Well, went through a proof of concept. Well, before I get there, let me finish. Obviously, with COVID-19 coming down, real estate, lots of different companies, have empty properties. So they needed to understand what's the impact of that. So changes were made in Salesforce. Salesforce is their system of record for all their property metadata. So when they've got, think about a gym, for example, 24-hour fitness. I don't know if that's one of their properties, but think about that. Well, that property likely in certain cities isn't going to be able to be frequented. So do they have a risk that somebody's not going to be able to afford their rent for that month? Right? What is the severity of that risk? What's their exposure? They need to understand all that. So Salesforce was updated with a COVID impact rating across all of their properties. And because that data is changing frequently and rapidly, right? Cities are going into lockdowns, individual states are going into lockdown, maybe even counties in individual states are going into lockdown. They need to refresh this information frequently, right? So we originally started with them as a proof of concept. They just wanted to understand, look, Scalese works for us today to move Salesforce to the data warehouse, and then the data warehouse goes up to Power BI, great as well. But it doesn't do general ledger to Anaplan. So we want to make sure that, hey, if we're taking on a new integration solution here, can it hit all of our needs? So proof of concept early in Q1 was to look at Salesforce to the data warehouse. We completed that successfully, as well as an integration from their general ledger to Anaplan. So both of those things, they said, great, looks good, let's move forward. And on the third week of March, they became a customer. Fast forward a couple of days, and all of a sudden COVID has really changed. And now they really need to understand what exactly is their exposure. So again, Salesforce is updated, and we need to flow that data from Salesforce into the data warehouse all the time. Well, again, just very quick, easy build. We completed that in 1 day because we have native connectors into both SQL Server as well as Salesforce. And now that's scheduled, it's running, and it's refreshing every 2 hours. So every 2 hours, their data warehouse is getting updated, and their end users are able to see through Power BI what is the impact of COVID to these particular subsets of properties. Right? And so now the goal is, all right, we've hit their immediate need, and now we'll focus on continuing to build out or replace their Skyvia integrations, as well as build new integrations that weren't supported by Skyvia, particularly General Ledger into Anaplan. So a couple of cool use cases. If the Blue Cross Blue Shield one kind of piqued your interest and you'd like to understand that, a few different references here, and I gave you the full web address here. I obviously don't expect you to write this down. I'm sure that Edward and the NRL team are going to find a way to distribute these out to everybody. But those are the links to, what are the deployment strategies with OneCloud? Is it a point and run? Is it a full blown? And how do we use those together? The Blue Cross Blue Shield story. And then the last one there is a solution highlight, where we actually went through and we detailed out the integration build using OneCloud. So if you decide, hey, this sounds interesting and I'd love to do something similar, it literally gives you a step-by-step, call it a manual for how to do that and what those individual things are that we've done. All right, so questions. And I'm almost right on time, which is uncommon for me because I like to talk. No questions. See, I'm much better in person. I've been presenting at Kscope. Kscope, this was going to be my 10th Kscope presenting. So thank you, COVID, for breaking my streak. That's really cool of you.
Yeah. Well, I think you can say how many in a row you went to, because I think 2020 doesn't count as part of that. But yeah, it's I am looking forward to resuming in Nashville, and I do expect that Kscope. I have no insider information on this, so nobody take this to the bank. But I expect they will try and do something like Collaborate is doing, where they'll have some virtual sessions during that time period. But Tony is awesome on the webinar, but he's also even more awesome when he's in person. So. We do have some questions. You got about 3 of them, or one of them with 2 parts. The first one was, are there any on-prem requirements for using OneCloud?
I like your 2 parts there. That reminds me of a movie that I absolutely love.
Back to School.
Rodney Dangerfield. I have one question in 27 pots. So is there an on-prem requirement? Technically, no. We have what we call cloud runners and ground runners. And these are agents that perform operations within OneCloud, right? That they're what's performing the data transformation, the data extraction, the data load. The ground runner and the cloud runner are 2 separate things. The cloud runner runs within our cloud system, right? So, in that scenario, the data flows through our cloud. Understanding that some companies may not be comfortable with that and may not support that, we have an on-premises component called the ground runner, which is essentially the cloud runner that you install locally. Is a lightweight agent that runs on both Windows, Linux, Mac OS. All right, I guess both is the wrong moniker there. It runs across those multiple platforms. And when you install a ground runner, if you choose to install a ground runner, then the data stays within your network during processing, and then it is transferred over HTTPS using TLS 1.2 port 443 goes up into Oracle Cloud, the same way EPM Automate does it, the same way the REST API does it. What it does with the ground runner is it makes sure that the data processing that's happening by OneCloud sending commands to the ground runner occurs within your data network or within your data walls. So you don't have to have an on-premises component, but we certainly support one to again, kind of align to your organization's security requirements and needs. Second question, which I can see on my screen here, Edward, so I can read that one out. So what if you integrated, have the EPM agent? What is the transition to OneCloud? So I'm going to play the question back. What if I've already made the investment in EPM integration agent, and is that throwaway work? What's the level of effort to pick that up and put that into OneCloud? So great question. I love that question. Obviously, I was very much, and I still do believe in what FDME and cloud data management can do, right? Which is probably not the greatest thing for me to say representing OneCloud, but I'm also realistic and understand that those applications have value. So if you've integrated with EPM integration agent, you've kickstarted your OneCloud implementation. And what do I mean by that? Well, the biggest challenge that I see generally in data integration is two things. One, how do I source that data? Where do I go get it? Do I need to build the query to do that? Is there a report that needs to be run? For example, in NetSuite, you run a report or a saved search. And then once I've done that and I've gotten that data, how do I actually transform that? What's the mapping that I've applied to it? Well, both those things are the heavy lifting. You've done it. Transitioning that into OneCloud is actually very quick. We can take any type of the relational queries that you may have written, assuming it's a relational source, and we can transition those right into our UI very easily. We may even have a pre-built set of functionality in the system that does that already. So like in the case of NetSuite, for example, you just simply type in the name of the saved search that you want to run, and that will actually go out to NetSuite, run that, and then return the results to you, right? No coding required there. Then the mapping and the transformation, all of that can be plopped into OneCloud very easily as well. So the time to transition is usually pretty quick because, again, you've done a lot of the heavy lifting. And again, kind of point and run here, you can do this in stages, right? So if you say, the EPM integration agent, I'm not really good with Groovy, I'm not good with Jython, I don't know Java to save my life. EPM integration agent, thanks for doing it, it works, but I have no idea how I'm going to sustain this. But hey, I like cloud data management, we want to stick to that. Well, you can actually daisy chain these things together, kind of that point and run strategy, where we actually have commands where we can invoke cloud data management. And so we can grab the data using our capabilities, replace EPM integration agent, get rid of that need to write Jython or Groovy or Java particular scripts, put that into OneCloud, take that data and then feed it into cloud data management as an immediate point and run. And then over time, you can work to integrate that back into OneCloud in kind of a full-blown manner. So transitioning the maps into OneCloud and all the equivalent of building locations and things like that. We don't have any of that concept of locations. We're much more fluid and dynamic than that. But that concept is how that all kind of comes together. So hopefully that answered that question. I tend to be a bit verbose, but I like to try to be as words are escaping me right now, but as thorough as possible.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony.
My pleasure.
I did want to give a special shout out to Tony, who I believe 24 hours ago did not know he was going to be presenting today, but we had a presenter who wasn't able to get their session in time for today, and Tony answered the call and said, I will drop what I'm doing and I'll put together some content, and I sincerely appreciate that. So personal round of applause from me. Everybody else is giving you one as well. Thank you very much, Tony. Hope you have an excellent, oh, go ahead.
Let me say one last thing here. If anything I've said sounds interesting and you say, I'd like to check this out, right, here's some resources for you. You can always learn more at our website. Again, I'm not trying to beat you over the head, but I do want to pull this one last thing out here. The Get Started section there, the third box on the right. We actually have the ability for you to spin up an instance of OneCloud for free for 30 days, no commitment, no credit card. All you got to do is put in your email address, your corporate email address, and you get a tenant. And what that allows you to do is test it out, take it for a run, right? See if it works. At the end of the 30 days, if it didn't work out, no harm, no foul. Let us know what you didn't like. Maybe we can find a way to build something in that you come back and you look at it again in 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever the case might be. If you do like it, nothing's lost. We simply turn that from a trial tenant into a full-blown user license. Everything that you've built is there for you and ready to go. So I think that that's a really interesting way to make sure that you can prove that, hey, the investment is worth it. So I call that out, and I thank everybody for their attention today and for listening to me tell you a bit more about OneCloud.
You're awesome, Tony. And an anonymous person Q&A'd in, and I'm quoting here, "Not all heroes